Climate change, it is a collective reality. It's happening, and as the world is getting itself accustomed to face it, it's already speeding up. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the intriguing concept that is greenwashing. It's a popular strategy that many firms have adopted to showcase their resolve against the worsening climate change. And while many firms are legitimately committed for the cause, a closer analysis suggests that greenwashing is more of a facade. Let us find out how. Welcome to Geostrata, an independent, student-run think tank, but more about us at the end of the video. Now, the climate change has been happening since time immemorial. Our beloved Earth has gone through rounds of rapid volcanic eruptions and ice ages, multiple times perhaps. But the problem that we face is the anthropogenic climate change. That is, the human activities have so rapidly increased the emissions of carbon into our atmosphere that it is simply becoming unsustainable. The more the carbon, the larger is the absorption of heat, and hence the greater is the threat to our planet, to its people, and the rich biodiversity. But how did we come here? The humans induced climate change begins with the Industrial Revolution. Now, over the time, the manufacturing sector saw a sharp boom. Without a negative bias, profit was the modus operandi for development. It was the way that the economies worked. Consumers at the time, and perhaps the society in general, was broadly unaware about the grave environmental impacts that a model of development was slowly but gradually causing to the environment. The other reason was that companies had not yet realized that they are part of the society, and hence they can only survive and grow in the longer run by serving the interests of the society that they are so intrinsically part of. But in the 1980s, the world entered the marketing era in which companies began to focus on the needs of the customers, and the phrase "customer is king" was truly born. Around the same time, numerous studies and research started pointing out to the negative impact of manufacturing and industries on our environment. In an attempt to shed this negative light, businesses came up with a point. They started taking measures to improve their public image by undertaking activities to give back to the society and the environment. It was around this time that the concept of greenwashing came into limelight. Coined in 1986 by the US-based environmentalist Jay Westerveld, greenwashing, it typically refers to the practice of companies misleading their customers about their sustainability practices in an attempt to portray themselves as more environmentally conscious than they actually are. The companies began to realize that the consumers were increasingly becoming cautious of their impact on the environment. According to Nielsen Media Research, 66% of global consumers were willing to pay more for eco-friendly products. So when companies figured out that a consumer would pay more for an eco-friendly product, they began to advertise their products as such with the intention of improving their brand image to attract environmentally conscious consumers. The only cause of concern was that the claims made by these companies were not always accurate. There are various ways in which companies practice greenwashing, ranging from false claims about sustainability practices, vague claims that are not backed by data, hiding information, and most popularly, highlighting only the positive CSR activities to create a false image in the eyes of the stakeholders. The best way to understand greenwashing is by looking at some examples. Let's start with the smartphone giant Apple. In 2020, during the launch of iPhone, Apple infamously announced that it would no longer be providing a power adapter and earbuds within its packaging. The company argued that the removal of power adapter along with the earbuds would lead to less mining of valuable resources and hence reduce the size of packaging, which would allow it to fit 70% more on the shipping pallet, cutting back the emissions during shipping. It claimed there are over 2 billion Apple power adapters in the world, and that this move would help the company achieve its net zero emissions goal by 2030. However, this has less to do with saving the environment and more to do with saving on costs. Now, Let us dig deeper a bit into the situation. Apple assumed that the majority of iPhone users are old. Firstly, this assumption in itself is flawed because the previous iPhones were shipped with a mere 5-watt charger, which, as it seems, is very slow. So, many old iPhone users would also be looking to buy new and faster wireless chargers, meaning e waste and packaging will still be produced. Additionally, new iPhone users would also need to buy the power adapter and would have to additionally pay for it. Similarly, since Apple infamously removed the headphone jack from iPhone in 2016, new iPhone users and audiophiles would have to buy Apple's AirPods or perhaps switch to other substitutes to enjoy listening to their favorite songs. As a result, the true gains for the environment from these moves are unclear. Now, just to be clear, this is not an attempt to either target Apple or other companies in general. They are at the very bedrock of a modern civilization. We understand that the systemic problem is the way that a model of economic development has been shaped over the time. It has certainly led to advancement in all the fields imaginable. Our lives are collectively better than ever before. However, what also cannot be denied is that this model has come at a cost. Deteriorating and possible irreversible changes into the patterns of the environment that risks the very survival of our species. Hence, as it is popularly said, with great power comes great responsibility. And if we are serious about tackling the menace of climate change, provided we even have a choice otherwise, companies will have to play one of the most significant roles for the same. Therefore, this is an attempt not to dehumanize companies, but instead to call out certain faulty practices that need urgent rectification. Now, having identified and further substantiated the problem, but what is the solution? Well, the United Nations Conference of Parties has emerged as one of the most major and influential climate conferences where world leaders meet to take action to fight against climate change. With COP27 fast approaching in Egypt, it serves as a perfect platform wherein companies and governments can come together and work upon the problem based upon consensus and not conflicts. Thanks for watching.